So let's be prepared for the cold wave in advance. Please be prepared to protect yourself and your family against the cold wave, which can be fatal for people and can create damages such as pipe bursts, icy roads, and frostbite. Keep the temperature warm for the elderly and young children who are more vulnerable to the cold. When you go outside, dress warm so you don't get frostbite. If you get frostbite, put the affected part of your body in warm water for 30 minutes. Keep the area warm and immediately go see a doctor. Keep water meters and boiler pipes from freezing by insulating them with old clothes or other materials. The roads may be icy, so get winter supplies like snow chains and check your car in advance for antifreeze and other necessities. Frequently check for cold wave-related weather forecast through the TV, radio, and the internet. Please follow these guidelines so that we can have a warm and safe winter. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM, 부산 영어 방송.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
Bypassing Korea. This is a term that we might have heard before. You might remember it, whether it be in politics or diplomacy, or the so-called Korea discount in the stock market. And these have been the concerns upon the declaration of martial law and the subsequent political instability. But this bypassing Korea phenomenon may be happening in tourism as well, which is quite a blow as the country had its sights set on 20 million foreign tourists this year. Once again, this is a reminder that political stability is a precursor to economic prosperity. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Friday, December 20th on BEFM 부산 영어 방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well. We're well into December. Can you believe it is the Friday before Christmas? Indeed. For those of you who celebrate, who's keeping track, Christmas is next Wednesday, if you can believe. You know, for most of us here in Korea, life goes on as usual, even after the declaration of martial law and the ongoing impeachment case. Of course, we're thinking about it. However, from the outside world, it may have sparked more concern than we here in the country are actually feeling in real life. And these concerns may be enough for some people to change their plans to come visit Korea. These experts in the travel industry, they say that they are seeing a slight drop in new reservations. Although the reservation cancellation rate isn't, significantly high, business hotels where a lot of group tours go to stay, well, they have seen a slight increase in cancellations. And the bigger issue is that new reservations for the new year are much lower than what they expected, what they should be. And since martial law was declared, student trips from Japan have been canceled. And a royal delegation from Saudi Arabia also canceled its trip. And the tourism ministry said that it is contemplating ways for tourists to come to the country safely. So one international analytics group released a report on December 5th projecting that the number of Chinese tourists to South Korea in the first quarter of next year may go down by 19%. That's significant, 19%. And this comes as South Korea had its sights set on reaching that milestone of 20 million foreign travelers for the year. On the path to a full recovery after the pandemic and then some. That's what we were hoping for and aiming for. So while the goal of 20 million may have been kind of lofty, according to industry insiders, they had been seeing figures exceed those from 2019. The government is trying to send out the message that, Safe Korea is a safe destination. It is indeed. I can attest to that. And we'll see if the political situation will stabilize in the coming weeks to corroborate this. Yes, there's a lot of politics going on and political instability. However, Korea is absolutely safe. I hope you all come visit. All right, topic time. Are you ready for this? Okay, there is this trend on social media. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called We Listen and We Don't Judge. Some of them are so hilarious and kind of really offensive depending on the topic. But, it's when you confess to something, you fess up to something bad, something bad you've done or said, or usually some sort of act. So in the spirit of wrapping up the week and even kind of the year and starting with a clean slate, what is something bad that you've done that you are willing to fess up to? All right. So 해외 소셜 미디어 SNS에서 we listen and we don't judge. 자, 무슨 말을 해도 판단하지 않기로 양심 고백 하는 트렌드가 있는데요, 지금. 너무 재밌어요. 그리고 어떤 건 조금 쇼킹해요. 근데 연말 맞아 속죄 털고 가자. 그런 마음으로 양심 고백 하나씩 해볼까요? So for an example, 가족분이 뭐라고 했는데 못 들은 척. 그런 거 정말 very minor. Okay? 근데 상사가 뭐라고 했는데 뭘 시켰는데 못 알아듣는 척, 못 들은 척 그런 것도 있을 것 같고요. 일부러 뭘 못하는 척, 일부러 요리 못하는 척, or like 손이 다 나았는데 계속 살짝 좀 더 아픈 척. Those kinds of things. So hopefully it's nothing major. We don't want to hear any confessions to any illegal activity. Hopefully none of that. So we're talking about these minor fun things that you want to confess to. You can send them into BFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. So go to that platform YouTube, search for BEFM or Busan Yongo Bangsong. And what you can do is subscribe, log in, and chat with our other waivers. Also on your phone, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. Also, we are available on Kakao Talk as well. So this is a great medium because you can send in your messages. You can also send in your photos. That's a great way to get in touch with me for free. You can listen to us in so many different ways on the radio if you're in Busan. 90.5, 103.3 FM. Also, like I just said, we are streaming live on YouTube as we speak, but you can also watch again at your leisure. You can listen to us through an app. We have two apps. The first one is our own app, the BEFM app, which you can search for in your store. Also, we're available on the Patbang app. So let's look ahead to our Friday morning together. And you know what they say, when the cat's away, the mice play. So we can be the mice today. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what I'm talking about. All right, today we have Casey coming in for Foreign Press Highlights. We also have Vasana for What in the World. Our special interview today, we're going to be focusing on what's happening with the war in Ukraine, because apparently there has been reports of a Russian lieutenant who has been killed, a major one. If you remember the name Igor Kirillov, so this was pretty shocking. And of course, we also want to focus on what's happening with the North Korean troops. We've been hearing reports of losses of, North Korean troops apparently who have died in the war. So let's find out if this is true. That's all coming up in hour number 2. And I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:07, and these are today's headlines. Yoon denies insurrection charges and further ignores impeachment notice. President Yoon Suk-yeol's attorney denied insurrection charges against Yoon yesterday, claiming Yoon has not even thought about insurrection. Korean won dips to lowest in 15 years following U.S. rate cut. The South Korean won sharply weakened against the U.S. dollar yesterday, briefly breaching the 1,451 mark for the first time since the 2009 global financial crisis. Acting President Han vetoes 6 contentious bills. Acting President Han Duck-soo vetoed 6 contentious bills, including the Grain Management Act, marking his first use of the presidential power since assuming interim leadership. South Korea issues influenza alert amid soaring infection cases. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, also known as KDCA, has issued an influenza alert in effect as of today, amid a significant uptick in patients. Putin says he should have invaded Ukraine earlier. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said in a televised press conference that Russia should have launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine earlier and been better prepared for the war. And these are today's headlines. Wavers, it's now time for Busan updates. So we have Sue in the house. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. So let's get into our text topic first. So this whole idea, I don't know if you've seen it on social media, this whole we listen and we don't judge. So is there anything that you kind of want to fess up to? What would you say?
Well, I'm a very transparent person to begin
Okay.
with. So, a couple of months ago, my dad visited me. So he would always ask me, do you want me to give you some pocket money? Then I'm like, I'm a fully grown adult. I don't need your money. But I need this and that. I will just keep going on with the list, even though there's no list.
So you're fessing up, Dad. If he's listening, now he knows. 아버님 어떻게 해요? 거짓말했나 봐요. 필요한 거 없는데 계속 얘기했어요. So you just kept on going on and on and on, droning on and on.
Sorry.
It's okay. That's the privilege of having a nice dad, right? So that's fine. We're going to jump into our first update for today. So this is regarding a Korea Railway Corporation, or KORAIL, which has announced an open call for private developers to redevelop Busanjin District's Pomcheondong Railway vehicle maintenance site. So maybe you can give us some details surrounding this.
Yes. So this large-scale urban redevelopment plan aims to modernize railway facilities and stimulate the local economy.
Yes.
So the existing maintenance facility will be relocated near Busan Newport, and the current site will undergo redevelopment in conjunction with Old Town renewal plans.
Right.
And when it comes to the land use and infrastructure, 30% of the site will be allocated for residential use.
Yes.
Over 50% will serve as public land, housing facilities like the Busanjin-gu Health Center and Busan Family Court. And the application deadline is next year, May 7th. So this project, located in a prime area near Samyeon, Busan's hub for transport, finance, and commerce, represents a significant step in integrating transportation and urban development.
Yes. So hopefully we'll hear more about this in the future. But thank you for telling us about this. They're going to transform this site into a landmark, hopefully, here in Busan. Well, Busan City next announced on December 19th that it finalized its 2024 policy implementation plan for supporting multicultural families. So we're talking about 다문화 가족. So what are the key features of this policy?
Yes, this initiative comes as the number of multicultural families in the city continues to go up.
Yes.
So the number of foreign residents is 80,000 83,401, which is 2.5% of Busan's total population.
Yes.
So this includes marriage migrants, naturalized citizens, and children of multicultural families. So the number of multicultural families has grown by around 8,000 over the past decade.
So that is significant for our city. Well, let's talk about the key features of the policy.
Yes. So the city will provide support such as scholarships towards multicultural youth, and there will be programs like counseling, career counseling, academic guidance, and career exploration activities through centers like Career Experience Support Center. And they will also support marriage migrants that are going through adaptation stages.
Sure.
As translators and interpreters to improve services and foster economic participation. And they will also increase accessibility to services. So the expansion of the visiting education service for multicultural children who are unable to access local support centers. So this service offers Korean language education, parenting education, and child guidance.
So hopefully this will make life for people who have migrated to Korea and, of course, children of these multicultural families to thrive here in Busan. Let's move on, though, and talk about the number of the latte papas. This is actually, a group segment of the population that's on the rise as well. But let's go over, what does latte papa mean?
So this word originates from Sweden.
Yes.
And the concept is tied to Sweden's progressive parental leave policies. So it has been among the most generous country in the world when it comes to parental leave. And it is associated with the image of a father holding a latte in one hand and pushing a stroller.
Yes.
So it symbolizes an active and visible role in child rearing.
Absolutely.
According to the 2023 parental leave statistics, the number of fathers taking parental leave in Busan has increased nearly sevenfold over the past decade. In 2022, 2,735 fathers in Busan took parental leave compared to just 412 in 2015.
Yes.
And fathers now account for 25% of all parental leave users in the region, up from 5.2% in 2015.
Yes, going up across the board. What's the reason or reasons for this increase?
So the contributing factors are cultural shifts and corporate policies. So 워라밸, the importance of work-life balance,
Yes.
is changing people's attitudes toward paternal involvement in child care. So large companies offer improved parental leave policies for fathers. But there are disparities between large corporations and small businesses regarding access to parental leave. So further policy support is needed for small businesses to broaden access to paternal leave.
Yes, well, I hope we can be very supportive of all the so-called latte papas out there. Lastly, let's talk about the city's beach evaluation.
This summer was sweltering heat with a record-breaking heat wave. So more people visited our beaches in Busan.
Yes.
Among the beaches, Songdo Beach ranked first in the beach operation activation evaluation. So getting high marks for its cloud walkway and children's seawater pool. Gwangalli and Songjang beaches tied for the second. Gwangalli's success was attributed to high satisfaction with events like drone shows.
Yes.
And while Dadepo ranked 4th, Haeundae 5th, Imnang ranked 6th, and Ilgwang Beach came in 7th.
Oh.
Haeundae Beach last year's top beach fell to 5th place this year. Although it was selected as one of the top beaches in the nation, it lost significant points in the safety management category due to 3 fatalities this year.
I see.
The number of visitors to the 7 beaches in Busan this year increased 10% from last year. In particular, Songdo, Ilgwang, and Imrang beaches saw around 23 to 24% increase in visitors compared to last year. This is because longer heat wave and shorter monsoon period they are the main causes.
Yes.
And lastly, overall, water quality at the beaches has significantly improved compared to last year as well.
So that's kind of the report card for all the Busan beaches. Unfortunate about Haeundae Beach, not because of the ranking, but the fact that there were 3 fatalities. Well, thank you so much for going over all the Busan updates, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll check in with you on Monday. Thank you, Sue.
You too. Thank you, Catherine.
All right. And with that, we're going to get to our traffic and weather. It is now time for your traffic report. So there's some congestion on the Dongso overpass from Hwangyong Ramp to the old Kaegum tollgate. Also, it is backed up on Nakdong-Namno from Hadan intersection to Haguwon Bridge. And it's looking slow on Pyeongno going away from the city, out of the city center around the Wondong Ramp. As for the weather, it's relatively warm today. We're sitting at 4 degrees right now. The daytime high will go up to 10 degrees again under cloudy skies. There is a dry weather, a special alert in place over Busan. Looking ahead to the weekend, tomorrow will also be relatively warm with a morning low of 3 degrees and an afternoon high of 8. And tomorrow, by the way, is Dongji, winter solstice. So, get your pachuk going. It will drop considerably Sunday with a low going to -3 with a high of just 4 degrees Celsius. Clear on both days, though, and this was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
Time for News Digest, and Haley is in the studio with us. So let's say hi to her first. Good morning.
Good morning. If you are on our YouTube or if you're listening, we match.
We did not plan it, I swear.
We do not. We don't talk to each other that early on, at least about our clothing.
We talked about coffee this morning.
We did talk about coffee this morning. Yes.
And then we saw each other in the morning.
And just cracked up.
We're like, no.
I saw her, and the first thing out of my mouth when I saw Catherine this morning, which would have been good morning, but I was like, oh no. And she was like,
what?
That's a way to greet someone.
I was like, she was sitting.
What? I was like, uh-oh. And I, the Superman Clark Kent reveal, I did that with my coat, and lo and behold, this bright, bright green. And Michael Kim-nim,
yes,
today's dress code, She-Hulk.
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 No.
The She's Hulk.
No.
Not the She-Hulk. Our nicknames just build. We have the Padukdor sisters, the Chess sisters, and now.
Great minds think alike. I'm just going to say that over and over until it's true. So before we enter into our news digest, we got to hear about your whole, we listen, but we don't judge.
And we don't judge.
Yes.
That's the tag. So many. So, our producer isn't here.
Yes.
All this doesn't pertain to her specifically. But, sometimes when people text you, message you on Kakao Talk, and it's like extra work.
Do you ignore it?
Well, we listen and we don't judge.
Okay. We listen and we don't judge.
All right, so here's a tip. Here's my
your tip.
Hawaiian tip for all y'all. If you have PC Talk, the messenger chat, open the chats that you maybe want to ignore. And then what you can do is you just kind of put your cursor over the chat window and it'll
then?
pop up without actually opening it, kind of like a preview. And you can read the messages, but the one doesn't go away. So like in your start bar,
really?
Put your cursor over the icon and the previews will pop up, and also then don't click on it, but like scroll your cursor to
You're
the
so outing
window.
yourself. PD님 듣고 계시나요?
아니, 그냥 오늘은 안 들으셔도 되지 않아요? 굳이.
굳이?
휴가인데.
굳이, but can you show me later?
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you.
That's
I
a good
really
one.
hope she's not
That's
listening.
a doozy.
I know.
You just outed yourself big
This
time.
is what I will do for you, Wavers. Yeah.
She's outing herself.
Also, I'm just gonna change the password on our shared Morning Wave in Busan chat, so she can't Busan 영어 방송 chat, so she can't get on.
Yes. There we go. Well, we're going to jump into, of course, our news. We're going to begin with President Yoon Suk-yeol. He faces an impeachment trial at the Constitutional Court and also an investigation by the CIO. So he's been relatively quiet for, the week until yesterday. So let's delve into what he said. Maybe not directly, but through his attorney.
Right. So his lawyer issued a statement from President Yoon, which basically kind of flat out denied insurrection charges, although he did declare martial law. So those words verbatim, they said, what kind of insurrection involves someone saying through a press conference before the people and the entire world, I am going to stage an insurrection. So he says because he notified the people, referring to the press conference on the night of December 3rd, this wouldn't count as insurrection. He also pointed to the time, the duration of the martial law imposition, which lasted only about, exactly 155 minutes until the National Assembly voted to lift it.
Yes.
And he said what kind of insurrection is dropped after 2 or 3 hours. But then this wasn't voluntary. Also, according to his lawyer, the president told the deployed military and the police that they should not clash with the citizens and said, referring to the president's prosecutorial background, as he is a jurist, why should I even talk about arrest? And the exact words in Korean was 체포의 체자도 꺼내지 않았다. Basically, he didn't even utter the syllables in arrest.
However, there are reports that may refute this.
Right. So this is a 중앙일보 exclusive, which reported that President Yoon visited. This is on the morning after the martial law imposition, so very early morning on December 4th.
Right.
He visited the Joint Chiefs of Staff Combat Control Room. This is a very secure and very exclusive location. They say the securest of all secure military secure grounds. This happened about 20 minutes after the National Assembly struck down the martial law declaration. So inside was just a handful of top military officials, including the now resigned Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun, as well as then martial law commander Park An-soo. So according to the report, the conversation went where President Yoon asked Defense Minister Kim, how many soldiers did you send to the National Assembly? At which point Kim responded, 500. And Yoon said, you see, that wasn't enough. You should have sent at least 1,000. So the Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, or CIO, 공수처, apparently secured this statement from a military official who was there. And apparently after this conversation, they've asked everybody else except for Kim and Park to leave, and the three of them had a very secretive conversation.
I see.
And this is actually in direct contrast to the president's previous statements that he issued via a televised address, where he only sent the minimal number of troops to the National Assembly to keep order,
Yes.
not to dissolve parliament.
So there is already, information out there, refuting the other information. So, some pundits are saying that he may file an injunction against this suspension, his suspension from the presidency.
Right. So we have been seeing kind of contrasting statements and his actions, because the president said he will face the treason charges or impeachment head on, but that head on facing seems to be kind of a tactic to delay anything from happening, as he hasn't shown up for any of the summons for questioning.
Yes.
So a possible next step, according to some experts and pundits, would be for him to file an injunction against the suspension from his presidential duties. In Korean, that would be 직무정지 해제 가처분 신청.
Okay.
So an injunction, 가처분, is basically when you are trying to suspend a ruling or an action taken against you if it is deemed that this action may cause irreparable damage.
Yes.
So he actually may be taking cues from the previous cases where the chair of the Board of Audit and Inspection, 감사원장, and the Seoul Central Prosecution's chief prosecutor, they also filed respective injunctions against their own duty suspensions.
Right.
At the same time, though, it could also not go over well because then it would only rile up new controversy and may seem unnecessary in terms of the irreparable damage clause.
Okay.
Because there is an acting president who is carrying out the duties. So there may be questions to what irreparable damage would be there.
Yes.
So if this big if, the president's attorneys do file for an injunction, pundits say this could be another delay tactic to postpone the Constitution Court's impeachment ruling. By the way, for reference, the Constitutional Court has never accepted an injunction request in an impeachment case, and we're referring to the non-presidential lower-ranked government employees, because two previous presidents who have faced impeachment trials at the court, so former President Nomu현 and Park Geun-hye, they did not file for injunctions.
So there you have it on that complicated story. But in the meantime, the ruling party and even the acting president, they have faced scrutiny and are, they're still facing it, that they may be defending the president, basically.
Right. So, number one, there is kind of blatant support coming from the ruling People Power Party, especially after Chairman Han Dong-hoon's resignation.
Yes.
Because Han was one of the only members who publicly called for the president to step down. So, the new floor leader and now acting chair, Kwon Song-dong, he is staunchly in the pro-Yoon, Chin-Yoon faction. And he hasn't sent out any statement of apology or that the ruling party accepts responsibility as the party that's in power. So during the Parliamentary State Affairs Committee yesterday, 정무위원회, the committee chair, who's Representative Yoon Han-ong of the PPP, said that it wouldn't be appropriate to say that there was insurrection on December 3rd. And another representative, Yoo Hyung-ah of also the PPP, said that that's because the court has not ruled on insurrection charges. So they're saying lawmakers shouldn't call what happened insurrection or treason. And when a Democratic Party lawmaker, Kim Yong-min, called ruling party lawmakers co-conspirators to insurrection, the ruling party lawmakers actually decided to file a charge against Kim to the National Assembly Ethics Committee. So it's a lot of parsing of the words going on.
Yes.
And then going to acting president Han Duck-soo. He's defending the president in more of a roundabout way through inaction, through a lack of action.
Okay.
So he has stayed mum. Meaning he hasn't said anything on the presidential office not cooperating with the ongoing investigations, physically blocking any raids from taking place. And he also hasn't made a statement as to whether he would appoint justices to the Constitutional Court, to the 3 empty seats. And this is actually despite the Constitutional Court actually saying that there isn't a legal problem with the acting president appointing these nominees.
All right. There's so much to unfold, and thanks for explaining everything so thoroughly to our listeners. And we'll continue to follow, of course, this top story. But now we're going to move on to the war in Ukraine. Authorities in Ukraine and the U.S., they have confirmed that North Korean troops, soldiers, they have been killed in battle. And we're going to cover this, of course, later on more with our expert in hour number 2. But what can you tell us?
Right. So to give you a little bit of background before we go into the special interview, there's been footage of North Korean soldiers getting killed by drones. And apparently that they've become an easy target because they just don't have experience, especially in modern warfare.
I see.
So the Ukrainian military released a first-person perspective drone footage. In it, you see a group of North Korean soldiers running towards the drone to attack it and then run away from the device, presumably after it started firing at them.
I see.
And also falling down after getting shot. So Ukrainian military officials said that about 200 North Korean soldiers rushed to their base on December 16th. That from judging from what they saw, these maneuvers were inexplicably rash, that they acted like zombies. So they weren't really thinking anything through and thus made them easy targets. The Ukrainian officials describe it as typical Soviet-style combat from the 1950s and 60s, kind of inferring that North Korea's combat style has not been updated since the days of the Cold War.
Yes.
The Korean War, really.
Yes.
And an American official told the press that the scale of damages would be in the hundreds for North Korean soldiers across all ranks. So these soldiers don't have experience and they're not used to combat, and it seems that they're getting killed in droves against modern weapons like drones. And the commander of the Ukrainian military said that the Russians are actively utilizing North Korean soldiers in their offensive in Kursk, and this has led to large casualties.
Well, so unfortunate. War itself, but the
Right.
details emerging. Well, for a final story, Bitcoin stopped its rally after comments from the Fed Chair Jerome Powell. So what did he say and what's going on with the price of Bitcoin?
Right. So in an ongoing roller coaster ride, that
Yes.
is the price of Bitcoin. It is kind of on a downward jump. So the price of Bitcoin plummeted to around 100,000 following Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's remarks that it is not accumulatable and that the Federal Reserve is not allowed to own Bitcoin. Bitcoin을 소유할 수 없다.
Okay.
So he stated at a press conference after he announced the rate decreases that we, the Federal Reserve, do not allow ownership of Bitcoin. And he characterized any establishment of laws and regulations for Bitcoin accumulation as a matter for Congress, so passing the ball on to the legislative rather than the financial authorities.
I see.
But also, he said that the Fed, or the Federal Reserve, has no plans to pursue any legal amendments. So this is kind of in direct contrast to what President-elect Donald Trump has been saying, because he stated earlier that there may be plans for a strategic accumulation fund. He was responding to whether he has plans to build cryptocurrency reserves, kind of similar to oil reserves, and he said it seems like it. So there's a bit of a contradiction there.
Indeed. Well, thanks for going over all the news for our listeners. And of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
All right. So we are ready for our first song break. So how about this one? By the way, the songs, they were pre-selected by our producer. So she has Jingle Bells by Sammy Davis Jr.
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Everybody! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Open sleigh. Jing, jing, jingle in the evening, and may I say, gee, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. A one-horse open sleigh. Jing, jing, jingle in the evening. Jing, jing, jingle in the morning. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Jingle, 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 jing, jing, jing.
Welcome back, everybody. Tommy, are you calling us Shrek? And we're being called Shrek and Fiona? Or the Green Mothers Club? So not nice. We were being so nice to you and supportive yesterday, Tommy. Be nice. All right, our topic today, we're talking about this trend on social media. It's all over, social media, and the trend is called We Listen and We Don't Judge. Meaning, people are fessing up to or confessing something, and sometimes like it's like in a very close like kind of setting, meaning like in a car or in a living room or wherever it may be, and everybody else has to listen, and you're not supposed to judge, but sometimes 너무 어려워요. You want to say something, right? Like, oh my gosh, like, are you serious? But you're not supposed to judge. That's the whole point of it. 자, 해외 SNS에서 we listen and we don't judge. 무슨 말을 해도 판단하지 않기로 하고 양심 고백을 하는 게 요즘 트렌드예요. So from you, the waivers today, do you have something you want to confess? Aside from your fascination with green today, what do you want to confess, people? Let's see. Tommy, you're my target today, says, confession. I couldn't finish one part of my work exactly, but my boss got a report saying that the work is done. Dun, dun, dun. Of course, what do we say? We listen and we don't judge. Really? All right. Well, for now, though, we got to get to Kat's pick, so here it is. For today's Kat's Pick, I want to talk about this amazing woman once again, Giselle Pellico. She has endured something that no one should ever have to endure. I'm talking about the fact that her husband betrayed her by raping her while she was drugged and inviting 70 plus men to do the same. Well, it's judgment time. So here's a clip from NBC News.
Breaking news from France, a verdict in a trial that's gotten worldwide attention. Giselle Pellico has won praise for her bravery after police discovered her ex-husband had drugged her and let other men rape her as she slept. Her ex-husband has now been sentenced to 20 years in prison, and 50 other men were also convicted.
This is Giselle, her head held high. At 72 years old, this grandmother from a Paris suburb has become a feminist hero. The trial saw her ex-husband, Dominique, face charges for drugging and raping her for nearly a decade and recruiting at least 70 other men to do the same, all while Giselle was unconscious. Police presented evidence in 20,000 videos and photos. The men in the videos dubbed Mr. Everyman by French media from all walks of life. The case sparked fury and debate about misogyny and consent in France. The case gained worldwide attention. Giselle's face was on the cover of magazines. And for months, her supporters lined up outside the courtroom day after day, applauding her bravery. It isn't bravery, Giselle said in court, but will and determination to change society. I want to tell all women, when you're raped, there is shame, and it's not for us to have shame, it's for them. Her impact is clear. This sign says, Giselle, the women thank you. For nearly 10 years, Giselle Pellico suffered at the hands of her husband and those he invited into her nightmare. Now, that nightmare is over.
The question is it though? I don't know. To be betrayed like that, he got 20 years in prison, and the other 50 men also got prison terms, wide range, depending on what they were found guilty of. But seriously, I feel like she is one of the people of the year for her bravery. She waived her, anonymity so that this could all be found out and heard. And this was Kat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It's now time for Foreign Press Highlights, which means Casey's here. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Hey, we kind of match.
I got a hint of green here.
Not just that. You can be the trunk of the tree. I'll be the tree.
Oh, there. Oh, yeah. Sweater
that?
team. Yeah, we do make a look at that combo
a
on the
nice
split
tree.
screen. It's like, whoa, Mother Nature has entered the building.
Apparently. So how are you?
Good. I getting ready for that Christmas business for
Hey, but
sure.
We want to listen to one of your confessions.
The-
We want to listen and not judge you. So whatever you say, we will listen. We'll listen. We listen and we don't judge.
Can you mosaic my face real quick?
I wish I had the skills. 모직 처리 해주고 싶어도 못해요. I can't.
That'd be cool,
pixelate
right?
you.
On the fly.
Yeah, that would be real nice.
Oh boy, a confession.
Yes. Nothing to confess.
I can't think of anything. Like because I'm
Really?
such a good person.
Not like even a little minor thing that your wife doesn't know about.
Oh my gosh. Okay, she's sleeping right now.
Yes.
You know this for sure.
I don't
The
know.
CCTV is on.
What would you say?
Wow, confession. Can you
Wow.
give me an example that somebody has shared?
Yeah, like people. Most of it has to do with work. Like people are saying, like Tommy just said, I didn't finish my work, but I submitted a report saying that it's done.
Oh, those kinds of things.
Yes, or like, I told my
okay.
wife I was going to in Korea, there's always I have to go to someone's funeral. But actually, they were like out golfing or something.
Oh my God. All right.
Yeah.
I don't think this is anything that any other parent has not done before, but
Yes,
I am
what is it?
happy to use my children anytime as an excuse to not do anything.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
anytime somebody's like, hey, you want to hang out? Hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? I'm like,
And what do you say?
well, let me check. If I do this face, well, let me check.
That means
means
you're-
no.
that
It's already
means
no,
no.
and
It's
I'm already
already no.
thinking of which child I'm going to blame for being sick. So yeah,
We listen and we don't judge.
no, don't.
I
judge.
love that.
It's hard. It's hard. being
We've all done that. If
busy
you're a
parents, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you
Definitely.
got to use those children sometimes.
That's why you created them. Just kidding.
Yeah, as an excuse to not go to perhaps a work-related after event. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Definitely. We feel ya.
Wish
Well,
it goodbye.
Yes. Let's get to our first story for Foreign Press Highlights. What do you have for us?
Okay, so I mean, I don't think it's going to be any surprise that the biggest story this week in the international press was all about the impeachment vote because, even here within the country, I remember
Yes.
Saturday, everybody's like, what's going to happen?
Right.
So this week has been kind of catching up on that. But I kind of focused on, there was so much to choose from. I decided to kind of take a lot of the, especially American press, focused on what does this mean for America? Which you might be like, what? So let's go to the New Yorker first.
Okay.
Their headline was, in South Korea, a blueprint for resisting autocracy.
Question mark.
Question mark. Thank you. My intonation should have gone up.
Yes, a blueprint for resisting autocracy. Yes.
We're a good team, this brown and green here. So basically, I mean, a lot of the articles did go over the details of the story. I'm sure you talked about that so much. I'm going to
Right.
skip that part. But the most interesting part comes at the end of the article where they kind of talk about what people are feeling here. So they said earlier this week, a poll found that 75% of respondents to a survey here in South Korea support Yoon's impeachment. That's a rather high number. They say the rallies, signature gathering campaigns, and online forums indicate something of a consensus across gender, age, class, and political affiliation. That is hard to find in many countries right now
Yes.
in the world. So I think that's one reason they point that out. They also say the large presence of young women has been particularly striking. According to Laura Gambeau, who is a political scientist at the University of Notre Dame and the author of a book called Resisting Backsliding,
What did she say?
she says public participation is essential for these things to be successful.
Yes.
She says if the narrative around impeachment is weak, for example, with Donald Trump, and the impeachment fails, it can help the leader present himself as a martyr. If the narrative is solid, has strong democratic justifications, and it succeeds, it's a good way to stop democratic backsliding. So in the South Korean context, the narrative that Yoon actually committed a punishable offense is fairly solid. So they're comparing what has gone on in the United States and what has gone on in South Korea and saying like how it's different. Even though some things might be considered the same.
Right. So it's kind of a comparison of what's happening in Korea versus the U.S. Right. And so anything else that you want to share from this story?
Yeah, so according to Mark Tushnet of Harvard Law School, there seems there are parallels. So it's not just the situation is different.
Yes.
He says that constitutional courts, federalism, international institutions, almost anything under the right circumstances can stand in the way of the consolidation of authoritarian power. The problem is you never know which one is going to work. So in both South Korea and the United States, for example, a civilian, which is the president, controls the military, which ideally is meant to keep the armed forces in check.
Yes.
But then someone comes along here in this context who's willing to use the military for an unlawful purpose, or Trump, who wanted to send troops out on January 6th. So in that case, having a civilian commander-in-chief in those instances was actually bad for democracy. The fact that no violence erupted during the short-lived martial law here on December 3rd amounted to mostly luck, according to him, which is kind of a frightening comment. No?
That is scary.
Right.
Yes.
One other person they commented a lot in the article was named Baek Tae-ung, who's a visiting scholar at Korea University here, and also a law professor at the University of Hawaii at Manoa.
What did he say?
Well, he has a really interesting background. He was a student activist in the Minjung movement in the 1980s, which helped turn South Korea into a democracy, and he was actually in prison during that time.
Oh, so he has personal experience.
Right, he was a dissident. So he wonders what Americans might be willing to do if similar encroachments on democracy and human rights occur during Trump's second term. And he says, I hope people in the United States will see what's going on in Korea now. We should watch what's happening here, what the United States could encounter. So it's, very interesting how they just kind of draw these parallels to the two countries.
Yes, very interesting article. All right, let's move to our second story.
Okay,
Is it related?
Yeah, and it also from New York. It's from the New York Times, and this is basically kind of very different take on what this impeachment means. The headline is, Impeachment in South Korea has cost Washington a staunch ally.
Ooh.
And it's, so they say, actually according to the New York Times, President Yoon Suk-yeol has changed the course of South Korea's diplomacy like no leader before him. He put his country in lockstep with the United States by countering North Korea with sanctions, joint military drills. He won plaudits from Washington when he overcame a century of historical grievances Koreans held against Japan and helped lay the ground for trilateral cooperation to deter China. So it's
very from the perspective of the U.S.
All of this is.
Yes.
Yeah,
so we want to point that out.
Yes.
Not our opinions.
No, and it's all from New York publications.
The New York Times, yeah. Just happened, yeah.
So basically it details like how much his administration has changed the diplomatic course of South Korea. Also being involved with criticizing Russia's invasion of Ukraine as a violation of international law, selling weapons and ammunition to countries that supported Ukraine, standing up against China, which they say South Korea long feared as a bully, but needs as a trading partner, which puts us in an awkward position.
Always.
But he actually opposed the unlawful maritime claims in the Indo-Pacific region, which, not an easy thing to do with such a big trading partner.
Sure.
But now that this impeachment process is going through, probably the biggest thing that's going to be unraveled is all of his diplomatic moves. So they say in the New York Times, this was probably his greatest legacy, his diplomatic agenda. It could be one of the biggest casualties of this downfall.
Interesting. So, is this going to be bad for the U.S., do they say?
Yeah, and they say actually specifically, not just the United States, but according to John Delury, who's a Korea expert and visiting professor at Lewis University in Rome, ironically, Yoon was held up as a paragon of an allied democratic leader, and his ham-handed attempt to impose martial law is an egg in the face for the outgoing Biden administration.
Oh, that's how he's deciphering this.
Right. So it's not just the United States as a whole, but anybody who kind of made deals in this direction, it's going to look bad for them as well.
Any other comments that we should be aware of from this second story? Related, but still a little different take.
Yeah, there's all different kinds of takes. There's a bunch of experts that comment in this article that kind of maybe contradict each other or have just differing views. But there's an interesting warning from a Professor Dudden from University of Connecticut, Alexis Dudden.
Yes.
She says, with the incoming Trump administration's transactional view of American alliances, Yoon's temper tantrum may prove Pyongyang's best Christmas present ever.
She called it a what?
Yeah, so basically Trump is...
Temper tantrum.
Temper tantrum, yeah. She's pointing out the fact that now there's no real leader of state until the next election, if that's what happens.
If that's, yes.
So there's no one to negotiate with President Trump about how much to pay for the military here. So that's what her point is. So it's really, a lot of things are kind of up in the air now.
Indeed, that's on the minds of many people.
Right, for sure.
Can't deny that. Right.
For sure.
Hey, so I do want to wrap things up, though.
Sure.
But before I let you go,
yes,
we're done with Foreign Press Highlights. Are you ready for Christmas? Are you done with your shopping for your little ones?
Okay, another confession. I
Yes.
haven't done any Christmas shopping yet.
We
Not one.
listen and we don't judge.
This is the one I was saving for the confession, the true confession. Thank you for not judging.
Yes, no. You know why? I haven't started either.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, for real.
All right. Long distance.
Procrastinators. Yes, fist bump. Well, we're going to let you go, but thank you
Let me go
so
do
much.
my Christmas shopping now.
Yeah, you can go on.
Is anything open?
At 7:53 in the morning. Do you have any idea what you're getting for
No.
what about your wife?
Or we'll talk off the air. You got suggestions? You hit me. I'm the
okay.
worst gift giver.
And by the way, we have a comment from Leslie who said this. She said about your whole comment about, using your kids. By the way, everybody does that, right? Michael says, Casey, that's genius about your whole using your kids to get out of going to events.
Yeah, thank you. I thought so too.
And then Leslie says this, Casey, just don't use the chickenpox excuse on the same child multiple times.
Oh, so they can't get it more than once. All right, note to self.
Okay, note to self, note to
self.
Casey.
Okay.
Can't get it more than once.
Right, that's good to know science.
Yes,
That's why we
indeed.
should know science.
And thank you for that, Leslie. You gave us all ideas now. Well,
Appreciate it.
Don't use it twice. We're going to check in with you next week, but Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Yes. All right, everybody. This was Casey. It is now time to wrap up hour number 1. So we're going to go out with this one, Jingle Bell Rock. And this is the Michael Bolton version.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring. Snowing and blowing up bushels of fun. Now the jingle has begun. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells chime and jingle bell time. Dancing and prancing in Jingle Bell Square. In the frosty air. What a bright time, it's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time is a swell time to go gliding in a one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jinglers, pick up your feet. Jingle around the clock. Mix and mingle and a jingling beat. Let's the jingle bells rock. Giddy up, jinglers, pick up your feet.
Your Bridge to the World. BEFM 부산 영어 방송.
새로운 다우니. 건조기를 사용하면 섬유유연제 향기가 사라진다고요? 깜짝 놀라실 거예요. 다우니는 건조기를 사용한 후에도 향이 오래오래. 그래서 입는 순간까지. 다우니 7일간 피어나는 향수. 다우니. 부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재, 미래가 공존하는 항구도시 부산. 이곳 부산은 계절을 물들이는 다양한 축제로 늘 풍성합니다.
어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
We are
the firefighter duo.
Winter is so dry. Let's prevent fire by keeping these 3 rules. If you take caution, you can prevent a fire.
The number one cause of fire in winter are electric blankets. Take special caution with highly flammable materials such as memory foam, toppers, and bedding.
Number 2, having too many appliances on the power outlet is dangerous. Always unplug all the appliances that you're not currently using.
Number 3, check the heater is off before leaving the house. Leaving it on for an extended period of time can cause a fire.
Let's all take part in preventing fire and have warm and safe winter this year.
Tune into BEFM Busan 영어 방송 for an emergency broadcast.
This campaign is brought to you by BEFM Busan 영어 방송.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded. What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock and it's time for news highlights. Yoon denies insurrection charges and further ignores impeachment notice. President Yoon Suk-yeol's attorney denied insurrection charges against Yoon yesterday, claiming Yoon has not even thought about insurrection. Yoon's lawyer, Seok Dong-hyun, said anyone who intended to incite an insurrection would not have done what Yoon did and declare martial law before the world, referring to the televised address on December 3rd. The Constitutional Court said that it sent another notice of impeachment to Yoon Suk-yeol's residence for the 4th time after repeated refusals from Yoon's side. The court said it plans to decide early next week whether it would consider the notice delivered. Korean won dips to lowest in 15 years following U.S. rate cut. The South Korean won sharply weakened against the U.S. dollar yesterday, briefly breaching the 1,451 mark for the first time since the 2009 global financial crisis. The country's shares also tumbled by nearly 2%, with the benchmark Korea Composite Stock Price Index, KOSPI, plummeting 48.5 points or 1.95%. Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok earlier forecast heightened volatility in the country's financial and foreign exchange markets in the short term, but urged the market to remain calm, pledging stabilizing measures as necessary. Acting President Han vetoes 6 contentious bills. Acting President Han Duck-soo vetoed 6 contentious bills, including the Grain Management Act, marking his first use of the presidential power since assuming interim leadership. Han endorsed a motion demanding reconsideration of the 4 agricultural bills and 2 parliament-related acts passed by the main opposition, Democratic Party or DP, last month. The acting president also has to decide whether to veto the special counsel probes into President Yoon's martial law declaration and allegations against First Lady Kim Gun-hee by January 1st. The DP is said to be considering filing an impeachment motion against Han Duck-soo. South Korea issues influenza alert amid soaring infection cases. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, KDCA, has issued an influenza alert in effect as of today, amid a significant uptick in patients. The announcement came after the number of people infected with influenza per 1,000 patients among sampled hospitals reached 13.6 last week, surpassing the epidemic threshold of 8.6. The KDCA will bolster its monitoring of local infections under an emergency response team. It has also advised older adults and high-risk individuals to get the flu and COVID-19 vaccines. Putin says he should have invaded Ukraine earlier. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said in a televised press conference that Russia should have launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine earlier and been better prepared for the war. During his 4-hour-long appearance to recap the year, Putin also talked about Syria's deposed leader, Russia's more aggressive nuclear doctrine, as well as domestic issues like the price of butter. On foreign policy, Putin said he had not spoken to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump in 4 years, but he was ready to meet him if he wants it, and added Russia's relations with China reached an all-time high. And this was News Highlights. Now time for Wagger. So you know what that means. Haley's in the studio with us once again.
Hello.
All right, so let's get to our first Waggle story. So as I reach real naturally right over here and get the story.
I didn't realize, by the way, as you're doing that, I also didn't realize the camera angle was slightly wider and my face was fully in your shot as I was trying to sneak in the script to you.
Yeah.
That's fun. So yeah.
Now we know.
Now we know.
Okay. Well, our first story. This one burger franchise has all of a sudden found itself in the middle of this scandal. So we're talking about, obviously, the alleged insurrection, definitely the martial law issue. So what are we talking about?
So if we were to thread the two of the most random combination words would be burger joint and martial law.
Yes.
Right. But all kinds of parody, scrutiny, criticism pouring out after it's been reported and confirmed via CCTV footage that some of the top military commanders, especially from the former and current heads of the Defense Intelligence Command, they met allegedly to plan martial law operations at a location none other than Lotteria, which is a domestic burger brand in Ansan. So this particular branch, since then, it's been bombarded with reviews on this particular portal map application. By the way, this one, you don't need to like show proof or show receipts in order for you to leave comments, and people have been. So most of them mock the alleged insurrection conspiracy. However, some people even gave 1-star reviews for that particular franchise with comments that have nothing to do with the food. And by the way, these star reviews are, they're critical for the businesses, and a 1-star review can really drag down the business's overall rating.
Right.
So of course, everything is, we're a free country. This is freedom of speech. However, there are voices that warn caution. First of all, with the most glaring fact that this particular brand and that franchise, a branch in particular, they have nothing to do with what's been going on. Secondly, more on kind of skirting that delicate balance of political satire to just mockery, making these puns with like burgers and Neran insurrection.
Yes.
With this case, it carries concerns that it may kind of veer onto making light of this situation overall. And, insurrection or martial law is one of the most serious charges. Insurrection with, criminal and the constitutional law. So one social media user puts it very succinctly, saying that the thing about this martial law conspiracy having happened at this burger joint is not just the fact that it's at a burger joint, but the fact that it's chilling that plans to incite a coup or allegations of a coup can happen anywhere without the people's knowledge.
Yes, and I think that's the irony, that it was the discussions allegedly happened at such a casual place out in the open.
Exactly.
So that's what we're covering today. All right, so moving on, we have discussed the congratulatory money for weddings and how much might be appropriate with inflation factor in at length. We've talked about it before on this segment. But now let's talk about condolence envelopes, right?
Right. So there's 축의금 for when people get married. In Korea, it's very, very customary to give envelopes rather than a huge box, as the mistake you've made.
Yes, I've made.
At your cousin's wedding.
Yes,
right.
yes.
So it's always a question of how much. But I mean, that's one of our favorite topics to be discussed here. That's really controversial for weddings. But what about for funerals? Is it 부의금, 조의금, right? Well, there's a simple answer for that.
Yes.
Apparently, 50,000 won.
Oh, so that's the going rate.
According to the 성균관 Confucian Association, which is kind of the cultural authority on all things Confucian and traditional. So they released guidelines this week on the quote-unquote new funeral culture. So the point of giving these envelopes for weddings and funerals in Korea is from the tradition of people coming together, literally pulling money together to help when these big cost events happen for their friends and neighbors.
Yes.
So considering that intent behind that tradition, giving the biggest bill, the currency note that is available in the current system, which is 5만 원권, the 50,000 won, is therefore enough. So because the thing is, these condolences are from the heart. So it's appropriate to not exceed or go over your means.
I see. Well, actually the 성균관 Confucian Association is kind of like all about simplifying tradition, right?
Right, and they are one of my personal favorite authorities to go to when we're talking about things like 제사 or 차례, the holiday, and the death anniversary memorial rites, because they can sometimes be very fancy, very maybe excessive, but they're all about simplifying it. So the Confucian Association advised people to refrain from all customs that have nothing to do with actual Korean tradition. And the point of saying that is because sometimes traditions from Joseon Dynasty and even before that, they get muddled with what happened during the Japanese colonial period. So for example, if you go to a funeral, you will have 상주, the host of the funeral, who are direct descendants. Sometimes some people will argue that only males can be the 상주, but I'm like, what about a family with 3 daughters?
Exactly.
Such as the Seo household.
Yes.
We, my family, have talked this through. So how do you know a person is the host of the funeral? They'll usually have this armband.
Yes.
Apparently, that's not traditional.
Oh, it's not?
Apparently, it's Japanese.
I didn't know.
Right. So the host of the funeral wearing the traditional hanbok, the sangbok as it's called, that's traditional, but the armband isn't.
Oh, well, that's really interesting.
Something to know. And also, if you're going fully traditional with the altar, there's what's called a shinju, which is like a wooden sign with the name of the deceased and their photo. Either one is fine. You don't need to put both.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, they see this as, it's not excessive per se, but you can simplify.
If you want to.
Exactly.
Yes.
Also, don't spend too much on flowers. They're not a metric of how much you cared about the deceased.
Oh, I see.
Which is very bluntly put, but that's if you think about it, that's true. It also advised the country to expand cremation facilities because at this point, 94% of all the deceased are cremated. For funeral homes, this is very practical. They advise to give clear instructions on directions, transportation, and parking, and provide parking passes or parking validation.
Yes.
Which is very true. Finally, in order to not really have to make the unnecessary spending, because of course, when your loved one passes, whether it's expected or unexpected, you're going to be kind of frazzled. Talk about it with your family beforehand on how you want your funeral proceedings to go.
Right. And I know it can be a tough conversation, but it needs to be had, right?
But really do it when you're healthy and of sound mind.
That's a great tip. All right. Now we're going to go to a trend that we're seeing more and more in apartments. Facial recognition software. Oh, it's fancy.
In kind of fancier, higher end apartments. So this is a trend that we're noting more and more in kind of Gangnam area for these huge housing communities that sprawl like thousands of households in posh neighborhoods. They usually have really nice facilities. We're talking gyms, swimming pools, like libraries and whatnot. But there have also been growing complaints of non-residents or maybe the residents' family, extended family, using these facilities because some of them you just need the card to tag and as long as you have the card, they don't know who you are.
Sure.
So one residents association at a Gangnam area apartment recently passed a motion to install facial recognition devices for the apartment.
What if your face changes?
Right. So the community has over 6,700 households. And apparently there have been arguments and fights among residents because, they can't get any seats or the treadmill is completely full. The Stairmasters, completely library, gym, swimming pools. But there have been arguments about these. By the way, and it's not just in Gangnam. So my sister lives in Seoul, not Gangnam, definitely not. But her gym has facial recognition software. And she, for the longest, she thought it was for COVID temperature checks. So she just gave me her card and she's like, yeah, it's fine. It's, you don't have a fever. And I'm like, I'm standing in front of the gym, like, we don't look alike enough for me to pass as you. Come down here and let me in, you fool.
You fool.
You fool.
언니한테, you fool.
Anyways, there have been arguments about all of this privacy and kind of exclusivity. Others go even further. Another apartment complex in Gangnam, they're working on installing fences around the complex for privacy and security.
Okay, so where is the line? I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe you, the waivers, can chime in, give us your opinion on this one. All right, well, while we're on the topic of exclusivity, a U.S. restaurant is banning anyone under the age of 30?
That's not a typo. That's not 3. It's not 13. 30. 30. 30살 미만은 입장 불가.
This I've not heard.
Can you imagine?
I mean,
okay, there is during my dancing days that I'm not supposed to do. There's like a lounge club establishment in Busan where I think you have to be 25 or above to enter because the whole point is they're retro. They play music from like the early 2000s, 90s and onward. So like your age has to be retro enough. I'm like, that's a nice way of saying old. Older. Yeah. So they do ID you, but this is in the States, and that's 30, which is interesting. So this is a cafe/restaurant/bar in Washington, D.C. They've been struggling with noise complaints because, according to the restaurant manager, they're kind of blaming the younger people, the kids these days.
Gen Z.
The Gen Zs. The younger patrons apparently would park their cars in the front, blast music, and party in the cars. Is that where the young people party? I mean,
I
do we have
guess.
young people. Our engineer's kind of young.
Do we know?
Is he young?
I don't know.
I don't know. Are
I don't
you
know how
young?
old is
He
how
looks
old he
young.
is. He looks young. He looks like he's in his 20s.
Anyways,
Yes.
we're outing him. So finally, their step. They made this drastic step to kind of to try to attract an older clientele.
Yes.
Rather than the younger, rowdier crowds. So they ban patrons, customers under 30 after 8:30 p.m.
Oh my God, that's just like saying don't come.
Yeah.
Like, definitely.
Yeah. Or, not in the evening. You can come for
Yeah.
lunch and maybe an early
Not
dinner.
for dinner.
But
Not for, like,
definitely
a real
not like
dinner.
a late dinner, right?
Anyhow, yes, tell us more.
So on their social media posts, they say this entrance policy is to ensure a safe and enjoyable environment for all the patrons. So you might be wondering, how are people responding to it?
Yes, how are they?
Divided. So pro, that's a relief. It's a space for grown-ups. And
Okay.
maybe they'll lower the music because
Okay.
our ears are sensitive. Others, well, it's like, is this not discrimination? Is it? That's a great question.
Yes.
Let's talk about the legality.
Okay.
Because this is the United States. States and districts can have different laws as they please.
Right.
The Human Rights Clause in Washington, D.C., it bans discrimination upon age.
Ooh.
However, it's a whole different thing when it's private property. It's a private business. The business says it's inquired with the local advisory council and the police and basically received a response. It's fine because it's a private business. It's up to the owner. However, though, if you know how for kids, like, where's your mom and dad? Where's your adult guardian? If you have an adult guardian, you can come in after 8:30. So if you have an older friend or family who's accompanying you.
So they want to ban a group of 20
Yeah. So if you are a 25-year-old who wants to go to this cafe, I'm over 30. I'll be your friend. I'll be your older friend.
She'll be your chaperone.
Yeah.
How about that? Your one-day guardian.
Right.
Well, thank you for all the very interesting, woggle-worthy stories, and have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye, Haley.
Have a great weekend.
All right, everybody. Now it is time for your updated traffic and weather. It is now time for your updated traffic report. There is congestion on 중앙대로 from Seil Hospital to Choryang intersection. It's also backed up on Gwanmun대로 from Pangnam Tunnel to Baekyang Tunnel. Likewise, looking very slow on Hwangryong대로 from Daenam intersection to 49th Square. It is currently 4. That's really warm if you think about it. The daytime high will go up to 10 here in Busan under cloudy skies. There's a dry weather special alert in place over Busan. Looking at the weather for this week and tomorrow, you can expect a morning low of 3 degrees, an afternoon high of 8. And remember, tomorrow is winter solstice, 동지, which means lots of pot. On Sunday, it's going to get much colder. -3 degrees as our low and a high of just 4 degrees. Clear days for both days, clear skies. And this was your traffic and weather. And this is 송골매 with 어쩌다 마주친 그대.
어쩌다 마주친 그대 모습에 내 마음을 빼앗겨 버렸네. 어쩌다 마주친 그대 두 눈이 내 마음을 사로잡아 버렸네. 그대에게 할 말이 있는데 왜 이리 용기가 없을까. 말을 하고 싶지만 자신이 없어. 내 가슴만 두근두근 바보 나는 바보인가 봐
All right, everybody, let's go over a text topic. Just a couple of responses before we get to our special interview. All right, so first we have, I don't know if I'm supposed to say his name, 고수님, but I just said it. So, 양심 고백하자면 그 회전 목마 타는 곳이 있는데 한 번에 요금을 내고 몰래 두 번 태워줬어요. Oh no. 죄송합니다. 아기가 안 내리려고 해서. So he has a confession because we're all talking about the, we listen and we don't judge. So he is confessing that his little one, oh, by the way, daughter, so cute, right? Adorable. She was on, he had put her on the merry-go-round and he had paid for, the fee and she wouldn't get off the darn horse. So I'm going to paraphrase and say he was forced to let her stay on because, kids are kids. Kids can be stubborn. We have one more. 버스 탄 적 있는데 현금 요금 낼 때 적게 낸 적 있고 마트에서 애가 젤리 들고 있다가 다른 거 결제했으나 젤리 결제 안 했는데 그냥 왔던 적도 있습니다. 가만 보니까 저 올해 죄를 많이 지었네요. 익명 부탁드립니다. 그래서 그분은 얘기 안 할게요. 누구라고는 안 하지만 네. So basically, may have underpaid for jelly or by mistakenly not paid, but it was never intentional is what I would like to think. That's what I'm going to think. And they want to remain anonymous. But those of you who see our YouTube chat room or who are in there, you already know who it is, right? All right, we're going to get to our special interview, so I'll be back in just a moment. All right, everybody. So we have been focusing on the North Korean soldiers who may be fighting or who are fighting on behalf of Russia, but also the killing of this Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov in Moscow. This came as a kind of a shock in this whole war. So Moscow has accused Ukraine of planning the attack, which involved a bomb hidden on an electric scooter. And at the same time, North Korean soldiers fighting along with the Russian forces in Ukraine are apparently suffering some losses. Some might say heavy. And so that is what we're going to be focusing on today. We have invited back to the airwaves Professor Aurel Braun, who's a professor of international relations and political science at the University of Toronto. Hi, welcome back to the program, Professor.
Hello.
Yes, welcome back. So let's talk about this first. The killing of Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov. What does that mean? The significance of his death, and especially for the war, between Ukraine and Russia at this point.
General Kirillov was not just any military officer. He was in charge of radiation, biological, and chemical defenses. And apparently the Russians have been using chemical weapons, banned chemical weapons against Ukrainians. General Kirillov has been on a sanction list for United Kingdom, for Canada, and several other countries. He was viewed to be a war criminal, so he was especially a desired target, if you like, on the part of Ukraine. And the fact that he was eliminated in Moscow basically was a message from the Ukrainians that even though the Russians may be making some tactical gains currently on the battlefield, Russia itself is vulnerable. That anyone in Russia who has committed crimes, anyone who has been engaging in disinformation, this was one of the other functions of General Kirillov, disinformation, that they are vulnerable. And it also sends a message to Western supporters of Ukraine that Ukraine is still fighting back, that even though making some losses, they're not giving up.
Yes. Thanks for clarifying and explaining the significance of this Lieutenant General's death. Well, the suspect is said to have been recruited by Ukraine's security service, according to the report. So what does this tell us about Ukraine's ability to carry out these types of, you might say, secret missions or covert operations, and Russia's ability to protect its own leaders, military leaders?
Initiative and morale are crucial elements in any conflict. It is not just how many troops you have or weapons.
Right.
Also, whether you are able to have cohesion domestically, whether the other side has a psychological advantage or a strong will to continue the conflict. These are intangibles, but nonetheless extremely crucial elements in a conflict. So what this also shows is that there is a problem of morale inside Russia, that there are people who are willing to act against the Putin regime, that even though the Putin regime has become more and more repressive, it is not able to control the population, that there is a great deal of dissatisfaction, that there are people who are willing to engage in activities that put themselves at risk because there is that kind of dissatisfaction. And it sends the message that Vladimir Putin is not the all-powerful, completely controlling person that he wants to project. And this has been an image that he has tried very hard to cultivate. And you will notice that even when he holds a conference, he will go on for hour after hour, basically to somehow convince the listeners that he is invincible.
Yes.
And this shows that he and his regime are not.
I see. And so also so important to what's happening currently, at least here on the peninsula. People very much want to know what's happening with the North Korean troops. So, there was kind of the buildup to the troops being deployed there. And so we have reports basically saying that North Korean troops, they have actually, some of them have died in the war. So how would you say that they are faring in the war? Would you say that they are underprepared, or what would you say?
The reports that we are getting, and we need to be very careful with them because these are not unbiased reports, but from multiple sources, it seems that the North Korean troops are taking heavy casualties. We know from monitoring some of the Russian publications that hundreds have been sent to hospitals because we have intercepted messages in the West that some of the hospital staff have been very dissatisfied that North Korean troops were being given privileges over Russian wounded, and the Russians have suffered enormous losses. Russia has suffered more than 150,000 dead and several 100,000 wounded. So there is a shortage of medical care, a shortage of hospital beds, and so giving priorities to the North Korean troops is not going down well with many in Russia. But I think it's important to get back to the big picture because Russia is trying to portray this relationship with North Korea, this growing entanglement, if you like, interdependence as well, something positive as a sign that Russia has allies. But in many ways, it is a sign of weakness because Russia needed to go outside to get additional weapons. Apparently, something like 20,000 tons or containers, which had tens of thousands of tons of weapons, were sent by North Korea to Russia. It consisted of artillery shells, and often they were of poor quality because we can see on the battlefield that these weapons have not really been updated, though North Korea is trying to send their more modern missiles to test them. In exchange for North Korean help, Russia has had concessions in terms of providing North Korea with food, providing fuel, providing diplomatic protection. And this makes North Korea a more dangerous place, more dangerous opponent, because this aid means that North Korea can shift away from giving heat to their population to spend more on weapons. So all around, this is a sign of Russian weakness, not of strength. It is dangerous in terms of destabilizing the peninsula. It is something that needs to be very closely monitored. And in terms of the soldiers that were sent by North Korea, it is tragic for them because they do not appear to be that well prepared. They seem to be suffering heavy casualties. And now there are some expectations that perhaps some of these soldiers might in fact defect.
Ah, really? So I think what really hits home for a lot of our listeners here in South Korea is the fact that, these North Korean soldiers, at least by appearances, they appear very young, smaller in stature, and that they do seem ill-prepared for modern welfare is kind of what's kind of tugging at the heartstrings of people here. So do you think that North Korea, I know it's very difficult to take a guess, but do you think that North Korea might be sending additional troops in the future, or do you think this might be a kind of a one-time deal?
Currently, estimates are that North Korea has sent about 11,000 soldiers. They're supposed to be among the better trained units. And the fact that they're performing so poorly tells us something about how the North Korean military, which is huge.
Yes.
It looks good on paper. It may be much weaker than it appears. But at the same time, we also have to remember that North Korea has nuclear weapons and it has missiles, which have enormous destructive capacity. And the Russian help in food and fuel allows the North Korean leadership of Kim Jong-un to ship more funds to these weapons. And also, Russia may transfer some technology, not the most cutting-edge technology, but some of that technology. And Russia is in a weak position, so they will need more troops. You can see what happened to Russia in Syria, where they basically propped up the murderous regime of Bashar al-Assad.
Yes.
But Israel largely decapitated the terrorist organization Hezbollah, and that organization could not help Bashar al-Assad, and the Russians did not have enough forces to save their client, their protege. And it tells us that from a strategic perspective, Russia is not doing well, but Russia is trying to achieve as much as possible before the Trump administration comes in the hope that somehow the Trump administration will force Ukraine into a settlement that Russia would be able to take advantage of, if not immediately, then in the longer term.
I see, Professor. Well, now that, for example, North Korea is involved in the war, have sent troops, could this mean that other countries and entities might further get involved in this war between Russia and Ukraine? What do you think?
Russia needs to recruit people from the outside, and they are trying to recruit mercenaries.
Yes.
In a sense, using these outside forces, paying for them in one way or another by barter or outright money is a form of recruiting mercenaries. So they may indeed be getting troops from elsewhere. I do not think China is going to send troops because they do not want to see Russia lose the war, but they don't really have an interest in Ukraine being disintegrated because they have a particular interest. So it's a very complicated, kind of three-dimensional chess game. And of course, if more foreign forces get involved on behalf of Russia, then there is no settlement. It's not inconceivable that countries will become involved more directly in favor of Ukraine.
Yes.
The democratic countries are helping Ukraine, and I think there needs to be a realization that there's a lot at stake in making sure that Russia doesn't prevail, because if Russia can't control Ukraine, this would also send a message to China that it pays to engage in aggression. You get to achieve all sorts of goals, and there could be, therefore, Chinese action against Taiwan, which would be enormously destabilizing in that part of the world, which might induce, at that stage, Japan to go nuclear, or even South Korea. So countries need to recognize that supporting Ukraine is not an act of charity, but it is to make sure that the naked aggression that Russia is engaged in is not something that is rewarded.
Yes, yes. Well, of course, as always, we want to thank you so much for your expertise and opinions on what is happening, the latest in this very lengthy war at this point. Thanks so much and happy holidays. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you for having me on, and happy holidays to you.
Absolutely. Once again, everybody, this was Professor Aurel Braun for a special interview. We talked about the latest, the Russian lieutenant's death, also about the North Korean troops that are fighting on behalf of Russia. We are going to take a song break. You may have heard one of the members of Jeonnamhae actually passed away. The news broke last night. Apparently he was just 50 years old. So we're going to play one of their songs. So this is 기억의 습작 by Jeonnamhae.
이제 버틸 순 없다고 휑한 웃음으로 내 어깨 기대어 눈을 감았지만 수 있는 건 너의 슬픈 눈빛이 나의 마음을 아프게 하는 것 나에게 나의 다시 생각날까 많은 날이 지나고
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It's time for Vasana and What in the World?
What in the world, indeed?
Yes. So,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
hey, so Vasana was like, what is that comment about that whole toothbrush? I don't know why Umberto wanted to bring that up on a very lovely Friday.
Because he doesn't judge, that's why.
I judge. I judge fiercely. Oh, did I say that too loud? Sorry. I judge my roommate.
Slay, girl, slay.
I still rake him over the coals for that one because that is like unforgivable. And now I'm so paranoid about toothbrushes. I keep it in a completely separate like place.
Yeah.
Like in a separate case.
How many bathrooms do you have in your home?
2.
Yeah. Well,
so I was using, once again, the kids' bathroom.
Yeah.
Put my toothbrush. Just in case some of you have not heard the story, I'll say it for the one last time. And then I won't talk about it ever again in 2020.
Until next Christmas.
Until next year. I won't talk about it. So I put my toothbrush in a separate area in my kids' bathroom because sometimes I brush my teeth there early in the morning. Don't want to wake up the roommate. And then I was like getting sick all the time during that like 3-month period. And one day he's like, who keeps on using this toothbrush? And I was like, that's mine, the pink one. I always use pink. And he goes, no, not the one in the cup. Yeah, why? And he didn't want to say.
Oh, no.
He had been scrubbing the bathroom, including the toilet, with that toothbrush.
I would never have told. I would never have said it.
He shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Because, like, I was seriously mad at him for, like, over a week.
I'd be mad until you died.
So what is something that you want to confess? Get off your chest.
I'm
We
fine.
listen, and we shall not judge. So what is it?
Lots of things, I guess, but for the radio,
yes.
Excuses for not going out.
Ah, what do you use? Because Casey said he uses his kids.
When I was young, when my son was younger, definitely my kid.
Oh, really?
Definitely.
That's a common one, I guess.
My son, but now that he's older, I can't use him anymore.
What do you use then?
Need
What
to have
do you
another
say?
kid. Sorry.
Are you making an announcement? No. Okay.
No.
Factory closed.
Definitely
so,
not. Yeah.
Yes.
Factory is closed.
Okay.
The factory is broken. But anyway, I do it now just out of just humor.
Yes.
Like, Vasana, what are you doing next Friday?
Yeah, what are you doing next Friday?
I'm washing my hair.
What hair? It's so short. No, not you're bald. You have short hair.
Yes. Or it's just something stupid like that.
Stupid to make it real obvious.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
I get
really
it.
obvious. Yeah.
Well, let's dive into what you have for us for What in the World.
Okay.
What do you have?
The first one comes from Tennessee.
Tennessee in the United States.
I can't even do a Tennessee.
Yeah, I can't either.
Tennessee. How do you say somebody from Tennessee?
I don't know.
Okay, home of great barbecue, country music, the unfortunate Vols, Roll Tide, and now a manhunt straight out of True Crime Podcast.
Why? What happened?
Okay, so this manhunt's now over, but this is why I'm...
Yes.
So it started when a guy called 911.
Mm-hmm.
He was claiming he was chased off a cliff by a bear.
A real bear.
A real bear.
Okay.
So he's calling saying that he was chased, past tense, off a cliff. So apparently he's dead
okay
and
now?
he's calling.
Wait. So he was chased, but he's
he
calling.
was chased and he's calling after he fell off the cliff.
Oh no! So he literally fell off the cliff?
Yes, apparently.
Oh, no.
This is what he told the 911 caller.
Okay.
So when the authorities arrived, there was not a bear in sight, but they did find was another person.
Mm-hmm.
So the caller wasn't a victim of the bear. It was a guy called Nicholas Wayne Hemlett.
Yes, we have his name.
Yeah.
There's always a middle name.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know? It's like a joke. If you have a middle, but most American people have middle names. But yeah. All right.
Have you got one?
I used to have one, but legally, when I became a citizen, it used to be. I know it sounds so.
Leslie?
Not Leslie. Catherine Victoria Song.
Oh, Victoria.
It used to be.
KV.
You know, my parents would like the regal names. Yeah. Anyhow.
Anyway, okay.
Yes, we digress.
Yeah, we digress.
Yes.
Back to the bear. So this was just a wild attempt to cover up a murder.
What?
Yeah. So this guy Hamlet had lured this other guy into the woods to basically he wanted to kill him and then steal his identity and blame it on a bear.
Like literally blame it on a bear.
Blame it on the bear. Sorry. So. I mean, of all the excuses you can use to kill somebody, a bear chased me is probably the last thing on the list, especially in past tense.
Yes.
I'm no idea. I mean, the easier one would have been I got lost hiking.
Yes, but the bear,
Oh. So anyway, fast forward to Halloween.
Okay.
This was just this past Halloween. The reason why I'm saying it today, not Halloween, is because he was convicted just this past week. So,
oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
So Hamlet popped up in South Carolina in Halloween. So the irony is, so he was trying to hide from the authorities, and he was wearing a Halloween costume.
Oh, wearing a disguise.
Wearing a disguise, and he was spotted on the night where everybody wears disguises.
He was trying to be smart.
But obviously not too smart.
Not too smart.
Anyway.
Because he got caught.
Right. For the next one.
Sure.
Let's take a trip back to 1974. Do you remember 1974?
No, I wasn't born.
No, neither do I.
Okay.
Bell Bottoms, Disco Fever, and...
나팔바지 and Disco.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And an overdue library book.
From 1974?
1974.
That's like 50 years overdue?
Yeah.
Okay, did the math.
So this guy was basically waiting for 50 years. So he knew it was overdue, but then when he realized it was overdue, he decided, I'll just leave it here.
What's his name? Let's out him.
Okay, his name is Chuck Hildebrandt.
Oh, Chuck.
So he purposely waited for 50 years.
Why?
Just a round number, I guess. And he went back to the library.
What did he do?
To hand it back. And then when he went to the library, they said, oh, no, you can keep it.
After all that, after all the waiting and all the planning, they said you could keep it.
Yeah. So he had calculated also,
yes.
This is how geeky this is, he calculated the fines that would have been accrued with the overdue library book, and he was going to donate that to the library.
Right.
So that they could buy more books for kids, etc., etc. So he'd had this money ready to pay, but they said to him, no, you don't need to pay the fine. Well,
it's okay. You can keep the book.
You can keep the money. But he donated the money anyway.
Oh, he did? Okay, that's good of him.
Literacy programs.
That I like. Good for you, Chuck. Because I was going to say, not so good about the waiting 50 years on purpose.
Yeah.
I like.
Okay. Oh, have you ever had any overdue library books?
No, of course
Does
not.
anybody go to the library now?
Oh, yeah.
And take out books?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do?
Haley definitely does. I always see books, and I can see the barcode from the library that she goes to.
Oh, wow. I only have ebooks these days because carrying a book around is just
no. I'm old school. Cumbersome. There she is.
She's got a book. What's the book? It's.
But she says, "Look at the library." The barcode.
Okay.
The whole point is not the book, the barcode.
I wasn't
to show because you're wondering who goes. Many people go to the library. Yes, because it's expensive to keep on buying books.
I actually had the same experience, but the library book was. I couldn't find the library book to return. It was Beethoven Sonatas Volume 1, and I went. Well, I found it 6 months later.
Yes.
So when I went back, they'd already purchased something else. And so I said, do you want this? No, I had purchased the book.
Yes.
A brand new book to replace the one that I'd lost. So I said, would you like this old one? Because it had all the notations
the old one.
From previous pianists who'd used it. And so I thought that might be worth more because other pianists can look at the directions.
Yes,
other
the
people,
notes.
And they say, no, we want the new one. Fine.
They're like, we don't want Vasana's notes.
No, so
You know what I did turn in really, really late? Do you remember back? I don't know. You probably, for those people from America, if you visit Blockbuster, which is no longer.
Oh yeah, Blockbuster Video.
I turned in a Blockbuster Video in really, really late one time, and the fine was like astronomical because they fine you per day.
Yes, they do.
And I completely forgot, and I found it in the back seat of my car, like on the floor under like this, the passenger seat.
That opens up news stories, but anyway. More questions.
Yeah, more questions. Well, we'll just leave it at that. Okay. We have time for just one more.
Just one more?
Yes, pick one.
Okay.
You can choose.
How much do you think a bottle of water would be? Or rather, how much would you spend on one bottle of water?
I don't know. If you go to a Korean convenience store, 편의점, you can get a small one for like less than 1,000won.
Less than 1,000 won?
1,000 won, right. Yeah. Why?
There's this company in Japan.
Yes.
Where they're selling bottled water for $10,000.
What's in the water?
US dollars.
Yes.
A pop. Okay, so this water is from a special spring in Kobe.
Uh-huh.
And it's filtered through volcanic rock.
Okay.
For natural character.
What is natural character?
No idea. But clear, crystal clear. But the reason why it's so expensive.
Why is it so expensive?
Is because of the bottle.
The bottle.
The bottle. You're not buying water. You're buying the bottle.
Why? What's the bottle made of? Is it like encrusted in diamonds?
You're going to have to help me with this because maybe my wife knows how to pronounce it. But
okay, what is it?
Swarovski.
Oh, that's correct.
Is that right?
The crystals, right?
Crystals.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's dripping in Swarovski crystals.
Ooh.
Adorned with gold. And I put this here. Each bottle screams, "I have too much disposable income."
That's your take, right?
That's my take.
Love it.
So it's the only water you'll drink while your wallet cries out for life support. So yeah, $10,000.
I love the puns, and I wish we had more time, but we're going to let you go. But Merry Meaty Christmas.
Merry Meaty Christmas.
And we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Vasana.
Bye-bye.
All right, it's time to wrap up the show for today. The good news is I don't think I made any major mistakes. So thanks for bearing with me and just tuning in, sending in your messages as usual. Hopefully things will be back to normal on Monday. We're going to leave you with this song. And this is, 회전목마. Coincidence, if you're still listening. This is by Sokodomo featuring Zion T and Weinstein. Enjoy. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.
내가 슬플 때마다 이 노래가 찾아와 세상이 둥근 것처럼 우린 동글동글 인생은 회전목마 우린 매일 달려가 언제쯤 끝나난 잘 몰라 엄마 벌써 정신없이 달려왔어 Speed up 어제로 돌아가는 시계를 보다가 어려워 어른이 되어가는 과정이 On the road 24 시간이 아까워 Big noise everything brand new 어렸을 때처럼 바뀌지 않는 걸 찾아 나섰단 말야 When I'm up 그때가 더 좋았어 난 So let me go back Time machine 타고 go back 승호가 좋았을 때처럼만 내가 슬플 때마다 이 노래가 찾아와 세상이 둥근 것처럼 우리 인생은 회전목마 우리 매일 달려가 언제쯤 끝나 난 잘 몰라 빙빙 돌아가는 회전목마처럼 영원히 계속될 것처럼 빙빙 돌아오는 우리의 시간처럼 인생은 회전목마
Your Bridge to the World. BEFM Busan 영어 방송.